Hey everyone, this video is going to be a little different than my typical video because in my typical video we're talking about the Flipper Zero, but in this video we'll talk about the Chameleon Ultra. The Chameleon Ultra can read low frequency and high frequency RFID cards, and then it can emulate those cards. I'm in the process of moving, so I don't have a power supply for this keypad, but I'll use a Flipper Zero to read the emulated tag. And as you can see, it cloned my EM4100 tag. Unfortunately, the EM4100 is the only supported protocol for emulation, and for reading, the only supported protocol is EM4100, although it can write to a T5577. Bill Nye uses my Wi-Fi, saw the potential in the hardware, and loaned me his Chameleon Ultra so that I could add new protocols. Sadly, it got misplaced during my last move, but the awesome people in Lab 401 sent me a replacement. You can support this YouTube channel and my product development by using promo code Derek at checkout. A couple months ago, Techiski, I'm not sure if I'm saying that name right, wrote code to read FSK2A, which would unlock a lot more protocols. I've just finished implementing the Viking Protocol, which I'll be demoing in this video, and I've added support for configuring a button to write to a T5577. I plan on making some detailed how-to videos in the next couple of months, and hopefully the community will be able to add more protocols for the Chameleon Ultra. Let's get started. In a future video, I'll show you how you can set up your Chameleon Ultra, but in this video, I just wanted to walk through some of the changes I've made to the Chameleon Ultra firmware and command line interface. HW slot list lists the various slots, and you can see in slot 3 we have an EM4100 tag with 888888, and then in slot 4 we have a Viking tag with code dead beef. Next, I'll do LF for low frequency, Viking, econfig -S for the slot 4 -ID, and we'll do 42424242. And then our hardware slot, we'll set the nickname for slot 4 for low frequency to a name of plant 42. And then finally, we'll do an HW slot store to write that data back to our Chameleon Ultra. And now when we do a list, we can see in slot 4 is plant 42 Viking with 42424242. At this point, it's now emulating those IDs, and we have these A and B buttons to let us scroll between the different slots that are active. So I'll go ahead and move over to that 4th slot. And actually, let's use the 3rd slot first. And normally I'd use a card reader, like the access control I showed earlier. But the power supply is packed, so we're going to use the Flipper Zero. So here we are reading the card. And there it is, the EM4100 with 888888. So that's how the EM4100 works. Now I'll move to the 4th slot. And again, our Flipper Zero is just reading ASK signals. And you can see we read that Viking with 42424242. So this shows that our Chameleon Ultra is able to act like a badge. So next we'll do LF for low frequency, Viking read, and it says the Viking tag was not found. We'll put a card under it with the Viking Protocol, and then we'll rerun the read command, and we can see the ID is Cafe Babe. So this card was actually a programmable T5577 card. So we'll go ahead and do a LF Viking write -ID 12344321. And now it just wrote to the T5577. And now if we do a LF Viking read of our credential, you can see it's 12344321 instead of Cafe Babe. In the code, you can see that the old keys it'll remove is 51243648, which is one of the blue cloners, or 19920427, which is one of the multi-frequency cloners with a screen. When it writes to the T5577, it sets a key using 20206666. On Momentum firmware, if you go into 125 kilohertz RFID, extra actions, clear T5577 password, and choose save and start, it will remove our password, which will allow you to use your Flipper 0 to write to the T5577 again. If you're just using the Chameleon Ultra or a Proxmark 3, you don't need to do anything. The next feature I wanted to show is HW settings button press. And you can see that for pressing the B for long, it says show battery level. Instead of the battery level, we'll use a new feature that I've added to the firmware. So we'll go ahead and do HW settings button press, and then -B for the B button, and then -- long for a long press, -F for function, and now there's a new write T5577. And then once we've made that change, we'll do HW settings store to write those settings to flash. This means these are now the settings for our Chameleon Ultra, and we no longer need a computer. Our T5577 currently has a Viking credential of 12344321, but we'll use our Chameleon Ultra to reprogram that credential. So we'll go over to slot 4, which is our Viking, and then we'll read a Viking credential by long pressing A. Let me try that again. There's that green lights. So now at this point, we have that credential. Now we can go ahead and if we want, we can read that credential on our Flipper 0. So you can see it's 00133700. And that's what's now in slot 4. So we can go ahead and put our T5577 and press the B button with the long press. And this is going to write, make sure we're on slot 4. This is going to write to our T5577 tag. And there it goes. It just wrote our new credential. So at this point, we have our Viking credential on our T5577. And when we read it, it's now 00133700. So we've successfully cloned a Viking credential onto a T5577 without needing any computer whatsoever, just using our Chameleon Ultra. Thanks for watching this video. Please like and subscribe. In future videos, we'll talk about how you can update the firmware on your Chameleon Ultra and how you can help the community by implementing more protocols for the Chameleon Ultra.